Technology was no doubt the great gameplay innovation of Breath of the Wild. Ancient technology, guardians, Sheikah towers, shrines, and the divine beasts all redefined what a Zelda experience is, for better and to some extent for worse. Even so, there was nothing that was more groundbreaking than the Sheikah Slate, an iPad-like device that didn't only take pictures, but literally turned Era of the Wild Hyrule into your personal playground. Surprisingly though, with the sequel inbound, the Sheikah Slate is nowhere to be seen, missing since Zelda smiled and proclaimed that it's time to head off for Zora's domain in Breath of the Wild's true ending. Now, the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer might just have hid the slate away, but one thing appears to be more and more apparent, namely that the gameplay theme of the sequel will be much more spiritual and organic, the polar opposite of the technological wonders of Breath of the Wild. Much like the Luminous Stones, which hold the spirits of the dead, or the color of the spirits of King Rome and the deceased champions found in Breath of the Wild. Who knows, the hand seen in the sequel might even be the remains of a former Zonai, who was determined to hold Ganondorf no matter the price, much like this fanart by Redundantz illustrates and RwanLink's animation adds life to. It is only that holding Ganondorf most likely was extremely energy draining and couldn't last for an eternity, and over tens of thousands of years the body or spirit slowly faded away until only the hand was left. A clear sign that time was about to run out, that eventually Ganondorf would break out of this seal. In this regard, Link and Zelda's arrival came at the right moment, as the hand would certainly have withered away over the next 10,000 years, resulting in Ganondorf breaking free from his seal by outlasting his captor. The Zonai, which had by the time of the Era of the Wild been reduced to a fading hand, was likely aware of this and saw Link as his last hope. In an instant, he decided to save him from that fall and infuse him with a brand new power, which will become the big gameplay feature, or if you prefer the gimmick of Breath of the Wild 2. So be sure to like this video and subscribe as we continue our push for 300,000 subscribers by exploring Link's Zonai hand, how it will change him, and the way we will play as our beloved hero inside Breath of the Wild 2. Welcome to a big Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 video here on the Commonwealth Realm. Together I'm joined by NintendoBlackCrisis and my editor Donny or Monster Maze. Over the next 10 minutes or so, we will explore what we believe will be the greatest gameplay feature or gimmick of Breath of the Wild's more linear and story-driven sequel.
Now it seems that the theme is spiritual, but let's backtrack a little. We can assume that the fusion of two hands might impact Link in a similar fashion to what was the case with Prince Ashtaka's curse in Princess Mononoke. An unwanted power with a terrible price to pay. If nothing is done, he will be killed by the curse. In Link's case, it will probably be a little less dark, but most likely also has a word to say in Link's hunt after Ganondorf.
Ganondorf will escape and unleash a new wave of malice, and Link's Zonai hand, more than Link himself, will want to crush him. In the subsequent quest, it is very likely that the Zonai within will enforce its will on Link, say a companion of sorts, but with a mind or at least autonomous will of its own. Naturally, a being from the distant past like this will have questionable objectives and methods after holding a single individual and, as NintendoBlackCrisis suggested not too long ago, sucking up malice for tens of thousands of years. And this suction functionality is something we should explore further. To this point, there was only one way for Link to lift a section of malice which blocks the path, piercing the malice eyes. However, these eyes were only needed as long as Ganondorf couldn't see for himself. With him set free, it's likely that the eyes of malice, the only known weakness to malice, will disappear. This may seem like a terrifying concept, but not really, as malice and the Zonai spiritual energy are both tied to the two opposing virtues of the Triforce: power and the courage to defy said power. What we suggest is that the Zonai hand within Link's hand might function like a malice suction device that can break the barrier of malice and clear a blocked path, much like striking the eyes of malice did in Breath of the Wild. Or more fittingly, in combat situations, being used to break a malice barrier surrounding an enemy, much like breaking armor on Darknuts in the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. An extra layer of defense that will make fights against the Yiga clan and even regular enemies two-phased. First phase, break the malice barrier, and then inflicting actual wounds. In other words, with this Zonai hand, we might be in for a powerful tool of combat and storytelling. In particular, if it also becomes our new companion, which we obviously didn't have in Breath of the Wild.
The hand is green, so we guess it's time for Link to also wear the green cap, tunic and trousers of the wild. No doubt, the Zonai within is likely more rough and brute than Link, as the Zonai were treated as barbarians, well, and acted as barbarians, and were feared as they excelled in combat, and specifically dark magic. I can already imagine how it might cause tensions to a specific someone, namely Princess Zelda, who will be relieved at first to be saved by this thing, but then likely concerned, mostly for Link's well-being. This goes in particular if Link will remain mute, say a new companion that might surpass the feistiness of Midna, which goes way beyond throwing a few words here and there to Zelda, but actually annoys her to the point that there might be some trouble in paradise. Obviously, this is only one of many possibilities, and most likely the new power, despite possible annoyances and a possible mind of its own, will likely be a great attribute to Link and Zelda and their quest to hunt down Ganondorf.
Just let that soak in. This thing has been holding Ganondorf sealed, in place, and in excruciating pain while sucking up his malice for at least 10,000 plus years. The power of this hand must be insane, and most likely a major upgrade and replacement for the Sheikah Slate, even in its highly weakened state compared to the full body. Naturally, we could see both of them in action in Breath of the Wild too, the Zonai Within and the Sheikah Slate, but it is more likely that they will be split in between Link and Zelda. Looks like Zelda is getting the easy mode tool and Link the hard one, the new tool which he and we will still need to master. Though we would love to see some more runes added to the Sheikah Slate, as gameplay-wise, the main functions of the Sheikah were already in place by the time you left the Great Plateau. Let's put it this way, it will definitely take longer to get all the functions of the Zonai Within in place in Breath of the Wild 2 than what was the case with the Sheikah Slate in Breath of the Wild. That is, if the Sheikah Slate will even return in the sequel, but that's a topic for a different video. Now then, hard mode. Well, at least from a story standpoint, where Link first struggles and then slowly learns to master and tame the spirit. Especially if there are different malice types or thickness to malice in the sequel. No doubt getting rid of the harder stuff will likely require upgrades or new functionalities too. But more on that soon.
Now, let's get back to the cave where Link and Zelda are, at absolute rock bottom, with Ganondorf set free, malice everywhere, and Link struggling to cope with his new power. And this is where we believe that things will begin to turn around, as we confront the first malice-infused animal or enemy on our way out and realize the strength of the Zonai Within, the ability to destroy and dispel malice. Imagine if many more, if not all, enemies in Breath of the Wild 2 are covered in malice. Much more aggressive and dangerous, and will require a courageous hero and determined spirit to be destroyed or freed from Ganondorf's clutches. That is how you write a story and give meaning to a power which identity will likely remain a secret at first, but become more apparent as we progress. A mystery just like the Zonai tribe itself, told or portrayed by the last Zonai unless there are many more of them hiding underground. Even so, it all comes down to the strength and ability to fight evil, which the Sheikah Slate had no ability to do in and of itself. Yes, using our creativity, this tool of science could be turned into an effective weapon. But in the case of the Zonai Within, it's likely that it will be much more devastating than we think. Which brings up some more questions. Number 1, will this Zonai power only be used for combat purposes, or also have some features outside of skirmishes? It is likely, as so many items from past Zelda games were missing in Breath of the Wild, and this one can easily replace it, though it also depends on whether Zelda will have the Sheikah Slate. Then there's the question if the power will be some sort of handicap to Link's right hand. Many have pointed out that every Link to defeat Ganondorf wielded the Master Sword in his left hand, starting with the Hero of Time.
There's definitely a possibility if we are to believe creating a champion and the scrapped concept art with mechanical replacement for most of Link's right body parts. Perhaps there's something more to this one than just an interesting concept art. Just like with Ganondorf on that mountain, which turned into, well, the moving Hyrule Castle in Breath of the Wild 2. When all is said and done, it is likely that the Zonai arm, unlike the concept art, will come with a more spiritual twist, turning Link more organic and possibly wild as the game progresses. This would be in tune with the theme of Breath of the Wild, where we started as a savage at the Great Plateau, then became more and more civilized to the point where we once again are reunited with Zelda, and then returned to being savages or barbarians, as this is the only way to really bring down Ganondorf Ganondorf and Demise's curse to put an end to both of them once and for all. So what can turn Link into an absolute unit? Naturally sorcery and dark magic that the Zonai were notorious for. Combined, their sorcery, combat skills and courage turned them into a force to reckon with despite the primitive approach compared to the ancient Sheikah. Interestingly enough, it has been a while since we last had a 3D Zelda game which required us to learn extra combat skills. 14 years to be precise in Twilight Princess, where the hero Shade taught us his hidden skills, which unfortunately were underused in that game. Obviously, to not repeat the same process, a similar skill quest might instead be tied to upgrading the Zonai arm or learning new techniques with multiple upgrades.
After Link is infused with the Zonai hand, it is likely that we will have some early abilities to our disposal, like sucking up thin malice and breaking some of the malice defenses on enemies. But these will only get us so far until we need an upgrade or a new part to dispel new areas from thicker and more advanced malice to defeat enemies that are protected by a barrier like this. Hence, it would make sense to block off areas and force Link to enter Zonai temples and dungeons to upgrade the basic Zonai power, and enhance it to unlock a further path through Hyrule and towards Ganondorf. Say, offer upgrades similar to the ones we saw with the Goddess Sword, which was gradually forged into the Master Sword in Skyward Sword. Only instead of going to specific flames or cauldrons, we have to visit Zonai temples, and by clearing these, upgrading our abilities. Even so, the potential for the Zonai within upgrades is definitely much bigger, and we will explore it in part 2 of this 2-parter on my channel, Monster Maze. So be sure to head over to it in the end card.
For me, it only remains to ask you to leave a like, subscribe, and press that shiny notification bell, and again for all notifications. A big thank you goes to both NintendoBlackCrisis and Monster Maze, who I'll be collabing with soon enough. In the case of Monster Maze, the collab is already up, as this Zonai arm video is actually a 2-parter, which you will find in the end card along with all our great patrons who you can join on patreon.com/commonrealm or by pressing the join button to become a member here on YouTube. Until the next video, this was Commonwealth Realm, and also be sure to check out one or both of these 2 awesome videos.